the privilege of sitting on multiple local scholarship committee boards, in addition to scholarship committees at the university level. So I have the unique perspective of having been the one reading all the essays and the applications and helping decide on scholarship applicants on the other side of the computer screen. So that's why we host these scholarship webinars and these meetings, to be able to bring this behind the curtain knowledge to all of you. And now I have an author page on niche.com and spend my time with students all across the country through Moon Prep. Moon Prep is made up of a team of independent college counselors who work with students virtually, one-on-one, and guide them through not only the college admissions process, but also high school. So we're helping younger students select the right classes for their future major, helping them narrow down career interests and choose a major. We also help students find summer research opportunities or internships or shadowing experiences, helping them all build the strongest possible applicant profile before their senior year. And then with our rising seniors or current seniors, we're helping guide them through college applications. So absolutely nothing is missed. And we're also helping them brainstorm all of those perfect college essays based on the hundreds of effective ones I've seen as a college admissions and that we've all seen in our years. Yeah. And so the cool thing about Moon Prep is that we work nights, weekends, and every time zone whenever it's convenient for the student. We even work with medical school applicants, grad school applicants, and we have a specific focus on highly selective college admissions, like the top tier schools, and also direct medical programs, also called BSMD programs. Our counselors also meet regularly to share advice about our students. So when you work with one of us, you're working with all of us, which is pretty cool. But today we're going to cover one of my personal specialties, scholarships, something that I have a big passion about, really just helping college be affordable for as many students as possible. So scholarships were really the missing puzzle piece for me in my own college journey. Without scholarships, specifically external scholarships, I could not have graduated on time, as I would have been working multiple jobs and probably really having my grades suffer and everything. So this might be the same case for a lot of you, or maybe scholarships are filling that financial gap between your dream college and the state college down the block or a community college. So today we're going to be discussing a few things, and we have our roadmap on the next slide. We're going to be discussing the types of scholarships available and how each of the categories affect the final price tag on your top schools. Also, where to look for outside scholarships, which is where most people probably feel like they get the most stuck. And then also how to create an organized scholarship list to make applying simple during your senior year. And then lastly, what scholarship committees want to see out of your essay. So we're going to share some examples of some winning essays. We do have a lot of material to get through, so just please know that I'm going to be answering a limited number of questions. I'm going to pause throughout the webinar to answer questions, and then of course we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So just know that if there are any questions that are outside the realm of scholarships, like we had a few questions emailed in ahead of time that were specifically about like the cost of PhD programs and things like that. If there's questions like that that are outside the realm of scholarships, we might not have time for that because there's so many people joining us that probably have questions more related to scholarships. So if you provide your email address, we can easily arrange an individual advice session with me or another counselor, and we're happy to answer those questions, but we might not do it live. And then last little thing before we jump into everything, we've had a few students also email in asking about international scholarships. So we made a whole slide just full of information for our international students that are joining us. So please wait for that slide. And also, since in the past we've gotten quite a few very specific, very kind of like just very, very, very like detailed, specific questions on these webinars before. If you do have further questions about international scholarships outside of the information we provide, please just send us an email because we probably won't have time to get into all those like really, really detailed, like complicated questions you might have. So, okay, let's jump into the slide let's go to the next slide. The first thing to do is to really understand, where the universities are coming from, so that you have kind of the right mindset to begin your search for scholarships. Because no matter how high your test scores or your GPA is, it's honestly just never in a college's best interest to make attending their school completely free for everyone. And that's totally okay, because they have to have money. That money has to come from somewhere. And so the resources and talented professors it takes to maintain a high quality education that probably attracted you to their campus in the first place, it does take some money, and some of that money comes from tuition. And so their job is just not to make sure that every single family can afford their college. Their job is to do the right research, to price their tuition, and then competitively, and then to participate in need-based aid programs like the FAFSA or the CSS profile to allow families to afford their tuition. So they participate in these programs to help it be accessible. So every college has their own pricing equation. After pricing their published tuition, which is also called the cost of attendance, along with housing and books, colleges decide on academic scholarships to offer, or merit scholarships, which is essentially they do research on how much they can offer in scholarships at which academic benchmarks. This is something they consider way in advance when they're pricing their tuition in the first place. Just basically estimating how many applicants they anticipate having that have a 31 ACT or a 1500 SAT. Because if they're offering a Fulbright scholarship to every applicant that had a 22 ACT or a 1200 SAT, then almost everyone attending their school would be for free. And again, they have to have money from somewhere. So that's just kind of where this comes from. And that's where, honestly, outside scholarships really come in. So after considering a school's cost of attendance, which again should equal the average cost it takes to attend school for 1 year with everything included, it's up to your family to figure out where the rest of those funds are going to come from to be able to afford that school. But again, thankfully, scholarships and external scholarships are a great answer to that. They can be that perfect bridging that gap. Okay, so on the next slide, let's talk about types of scholarships. I'm going to be pausing at the end of these next two slides to answer a question or two. So now you have time to send in some questions, since we'll be pausing soon. The very first type of scholarships is called merit scholarships, also referred to as academic scholarships. This category is really straightforward and great. They're awarded upon admission usually just based on your test scores and the GPA from the end of your junior year, basically all the numbers. So when people are talking about your statistics, that's what they're talking about. These are not based on your income, so they're not need-based at all. They're not taking your family's income into consideration at all. It's all just based on your merit or your academics. These are fantastic awards to research in advance, because they're also usually renewable for additional years. So that's just an easy financial answer for future years to come. It can just really take care of some of the bigger numbers. And then some schools offer an unlimited number of these admission scholarships. They just award them as students apply on a rolling basis, building them right into their pricing structure. And then other schools have a limited quantity and work with early action deadlines, different types of deadlines throughout the year. And then that's another reason to really research these in advance, to know that you're making sure you're applying by all those priority scholarship deadlines to get the maximum funds. Every school varies based on when these are awarded, because rolling admissions will award merit scholarships as they're received, usually 30 to 90 days after admissions. And then while an early decision deadline in November might hear back from merit awards anywhere from January through March. So March is going to be a very typical month to hear back about merit awards, just kind of across the board. Yeah, March is our money month, and giving you just enough time to compare the financial landscape of your admitted schools before National Decision Day on May 1st. And just like the graphic here shows, sometimes these are associated with those priority scholarship deadlines that I mentioned earlier, which also usually match a school's early admissions deadlines. So just It's really important just to watch out for all these deadlines during the entire admissions process to not miss out on any money. We don't want to miss out on $1 throughout the year. There's a lot of information out there about merit scholarships, and a lot of it is very specific to the school you're applying to. So a lot of this is based on like the individual schools on your list. So it's really up to you to do the legwork and the research in advance. But one great place to do some research in comparing merit aid from schools before you apply or as you're adding them to your college list, and also specific to your GPA or test scores, is meritmore.com. So basically on this website, you can type in your, that you got, a 1400 SAT and that your GPA is a 3.5, and see what schools would be a great fit for you academically, and also great fit for you that they'll be giving you a lot of merit aid, and also like the percentage of students that are receiving aid, so you can see your chances up front. So it's a really great website to see, and go ahead and check that out. Again, okay, we're going to ask if anybody has any questions right now, go ahead and send them in over merit scholarships. But the big thing to note here is that these are the earliest scholarships you'll probably hear back from. So they have the potential to be the biggest impact on your financial decision when you're choosing a school. And they're also renewable, so they have the potential to have the most long-term impact as well. I'm going to check out the chat and see if there's any questions we can do right now.
I think there's one. It says, are scholarships determined by financial taxes? And that will be the results of the FAFSA, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So we can
get a slide covering that, don't worry. And then
we'll get there.
Are there any scholarships for students that are a B average? So again, check out Meritmore. You can type in your GPA, your ACT, and that'll really help you out there. But yes, of course, there are tons of scholarships, especially external ones, that don't even ask you what your grade is. It's all based on an essay. So we'll get there as well, but there are tons of scholarships that you can get if you have a B average. These scholarships are not, like, I was not a straight A student, I promise you. And I got quite a bit in external scholarships. My merit scholarships were like very, very average, but external scholarships were, that's what helped me go to college. So B average, I'm right there with you. And we can do it together. How much the standardized test score affect on scholarships award decision making? So like for merit scholarships, of course, like a test score, GPA, those are huge in receiving a merit scholarship. There are a few schools, I'll cover this probably at the end unless there's like tons of questions over it, but there are some schools that are, rolling out merit scholarships based only on GPA, but those are pretty few and far between. So standardized test score have a huge impact, especially on merit scholarships. Cover scholarships that don't require any standardized tests for Latin American students. So that's going to be your external scholarships. There's, again, I'm going to cover this in another slide, but there are scholarships specifically for students from Latin America, and also ones that don't require standardized testing. So again, I'm going to show you how to do that, how to search for those when we get to that slide, but there are scholarships specifically for you. And if you need help finding them, again, we have a special we put together just for students who want help finding scholarships and also help with their essays. So we will get there. All right, perfect. So we're going to get back to our webinar, and we're going to talk about aid from private colleges. And thankfully, like I mentioned in my intro, I was an admissions counselor at a state public university. And this is why we brought Melissa on, because she was an admissions counselor at a private college. So she's going to spend a little bit of time talking about the differences that you'll still see at aid between these two types of schools.
Absolutely. I can consider myself a little bit of an expert here just because I spent 4 years at a liberal arts college, so experienced it on the consumer side, and then also worked in the private college for 12 years. So I understand what families are asking and the concerns you have. I've heard it all. So one of the biggest misunderstandings about private colleges is that they're exorbitantly expensive. You look at the sticker price, and you say, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. So for example, you might see that a college costs $60,000, but at private nonprofit four-year colleges, this is the category that includes most of the nation's highly selective institutions. 89% of students receive some form of financial aid, meaning that almost no one pays that sticker price. So that $60,000 we talked about, hardly anybody is going to be paying that amount. So I really, really encourage you not to get bogged down by the sticker price. Like I said, I worked at a private college for 12 years, and I don't know a single student, literally, that walked through our door who paid the full sticker price. So the cost of a private school might be exactly the same price as your flagship state university. And I've even seen situations where it's actually less. So like I said, just take that sticker price, see it, and then just forget about it immediately, because it truly is not going to affect you that much. It won't. You won't pay that amount. So just to give you some contextual information about that, here are a few examples. So for Yale University, it's a private university. It charged at one point $68,000 for tuition, room and board, and other costs, but the average student paid only $18,000. So you can see where those scholarships, those merit-based scholarships that Michaela was talking about, those come into full force here. The colleges they really do offer a lot of money. So another example, at Dartmouth, the average student paid just $21,000 of the $69,000 tuition. So again, I mean, it's staggering, the difference between the two. And at Amherst, students in general just pay $19,000 out of the $68,000 tuition. Okay, so just remember that there's a lot of opportunity there. Okay, and I don't want you to get worried by that sticker price at all. So the next section on there is just aid at private colleges. So how do you find out how much aid you'll receive? And that's the number one question. Well, you see the sticker price, but how much am I actually going to get? So a financial aid award for a private college is like a subtraction problem. And it's like a puzzle. So let's say you do start out with that $60,000 sticker price. You subtract from that with a combination of merit-based scholarships, which again are based on those grades and other qualifications, grants, federal student aid, and other institutional aid. And all of it works just little by little by little to chip away at that price. So again, don't get scared off by that sticker price. And the best way to figure it out is apply and make sure you're plugged into all of the merit-based opportunities that you can. And if you're interested in a private college, you can always use a college's net price calculator or get a financial aid estimate directly from the financial aid office. So those are two ways you can find out exactly how much you'll actually even owe before you go through all of the process of getting the financial aid award. So there's a little kind of a cheat way that you can figure that out a little earlier. The next section on there is just missed opportunities. And one of the things that I have just noticed just increasingly over my years in admission is at a private college or university, you actually have so much more opportunity to get to know your admission counselor. And I see people doing that less and less. And I think that's a huge mistake, because I know that you can build a relationship with the admission counselor or financial aid officer at each school, because they're smaller, they're more accessible, they want to work with you one-on-one. It's awesome that you possibly would be looking at a private college or university, and those people are treasure troves of information. They can tell you where there are special scholarships you can apply for. For example, at the college I worked for, you could apply for Central Awards. That was an art, music, even sustainability scholarships. But it was something that you might miss if you weren't looking in the right place online. So again, that financial aid officer and the admission counselor were keys to making sure that you understood all of your opportunities. So please, 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 please build a relationship. Another missed opportunity would be not taking advantage of a financial aid early estimator. So a financial aid officer at that private college can more closely walk you through this whole journey. You may know, before you even receive your financial aid award, like I said, how much it will even cost. So again, build those relationships, ask for those aid award estimates, and you'll be amazed at how much the sticker price literally means nothing in the grand scheme of things. And then also, we'll talk about this in a minute. Not filing the FAFSA is also a major missed opportunity. You definitely need to file the FAFSA.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your insight.
Yeah.
I do see, so I went through all the questions while you were talking. Sorry if I was scrolling and looking a little distracted. I'm so sorry. So I have a couple people saying, is what you're going to be talking about applying to international students or Canadian schools? And yes, we have a slide specifically about international students and also and scholarships. And also I see one saying, are the requirements the same if I want to apply for a scholarship in a master's program? And I don't know, so here's the deal. I have helped a bunch of people find scholarships for master's programs, and usually they just want to have the brightest and best talent in their master's program, so they don't really necessarily care where the person's coming from. A friend of mine just did a master's program, and I helped her find 10 separate scholarships for her master's program. So they're out there, but for an international student, you might do a little more digging. But there are scholarships for master's programs and, further education than just undergrad. They are totally out there, and they're just a little bit more specific. And they're definitely going to be requiring essays. Once you get to the master's level, they're definitely thinking that you can handle an essay and things like that. So just be aware that those requirements are going to be coming. And then I'm seeing a lot of people say, if I don't take the SAT, if I'm going test optional, how is that affecting me? So there's like 15 questions about that. So I'll just address this right now so it's off our plate and people can send in questions about other things. So, okay. If you are going test optional because of any reason, either there hasn't been a test open in your area, or I just talked to a student who had a test in his area, but he's just deciding to go test optional instead, just know that you're giving up most of your opportunities at merit scholarships because they have to have some sort of numbers to, usually they have a graph. Literally, it's like GPA and ACT, SAT, and wherever you fall, that's the money you get. So the majority of test optional schools are still going to be requiring a score to award merit aid. Examples of people that are doing something a little bit different, like Penn State is no longer factoring test scores into their academic scholarships. So if you check out Penn State's scholarships, they'll have a different grid. It'll look differently, but they're no longer looking at scores. So they're doing something different. So they're one example. Miami University in Ohio, their scholarship grid has been completely adjusted to not include test scores at all. And then also University of Maryland and Indiana University, those are also some suggestions. And also a lot of the Midwest schools have taken away their test requirements, and they're doing more with GPA or more with the resume. They're giving more merit based around test scores and not on test scores. So if you're going test optional and you still need aid, know that the higher tier schools, like Northwestern and things like that, they're still going to be requiring test scores for merit aid, but look around. There's lists out there of schools. If you just do a simple Google search, you'll find lists of schools that are offering merit aid. I just looked up on my phone in 2 seconds while Melissa was talking. So just go out there and look, and that is how things are being affected right now. So we want to move on so we can get to all the information for you, because we have so much information, only 30 minutes to hit it. So we're going to move on, but that's what we wanted to say about how merit scholarships are being awarded around COVID and test cancellations. But the cool thing is, if this has affected you a lot, the next thing we're going to get into right after this is external scholarships, which can help help you bridge that gap if you are test optional. So those aren't tied to any school, and a lot of them don't have GPA, SAT requirements. So we're going to get to that. So you can search for more if you are doing test optional. You just do it. You can just find aid in a different way.
I'm just going to add something real quick, Michaela, if you don't mind, while you're switching slides. But I think that your best bet is honestly to look into the college or university, ask those questions of the individual schools that you have. You know, we don't want to put a blanket statement on any of these colleges and universities because everyone is doing something different. And that's kind of what's hard about this too, is that they're all doing something different. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to individually, you know, assess each school and what your options are at each one.
And also that's also where the Fafsa is going to come in too. So there's going to be potentially like more aid being, you know, that gap being filled by need-based aid then. So we're going to circle back to the Fafsa here in a second. But next, we're going to talk about departmental scholarships, which is different than academic scholarships. So again, less of a what's the word? Emphasis on your test scores. So this is a great area for you to focus as well. Mm-hmm. These are other institutional scholarships. So you need to inquire about these types of scholarships immediately after receiving an admissions and an acceptance letter. They often have deadlines pretty early in like December or January, and they also usually have an additional application or an essay like asking you to detail your leadership experience, your community service work, or maybe if you have a minority background. So you should look into all these departmental scholarship opportunities for your future major as well. This is like a scholarship being awarded to an incoming marketing major from a business department. So the funds are coming from the business department, not necessarily the admissions department, and it's for a specific major. So look into the departmental scholarships in your future major at the specific schools you're interested in. So for example, a student that I worked with last year who was actually just a family friend, so I was just helping her out. She had pretty average grades and test scores, and she honestly only received about $2,000 in merit aid because, again, average test scores, everything like that. But she was pursuing pre-vet science, and she received an additional $5,000 renewable award from the veterinary science department because they loved the fact that she had like 4 internships on her resume. So she just got her money from a different source. But again, it was the same amount, like, you know, a really great scholarship overall, just not from the admissions department. So again, if we're lacking those test scores, look departmental as well. And you can do a nice Google search too, asking what departmental scholarships are available at which colleges in my chosen field of study. Now, athletic scholarships kind of follow their own timeline as you have to contact coaches and you work with coaching staff to secure offers. Since those funds are usually controlled and divided up between the recruits by the head coach, like totally within their own little bubble, there's usually like very little information published about those available scholarships, and admissions counselors at the school very rarely have, you know, concrete answers on those because it's kind of like handled in-house. So those funds are kind of always in flux as they continue recruiting throughout the year. So my big advice if you're pursuing athletic scholarship, maximum funds before they start using all those funds as incentives later in the spring for those indecisive students. So like get your money in early and then you're good. And then transfer scholarships are another kind of strange sector because there's usually very limited awards available. The general assumption there is that, okay, it froze, but I think we're good. Okay. The general assumption with transfer scholarships is that you've already attended school elsewhere first to save money on core general education credits. So colleges aren't like super eager to hand out lots of scholarships to transfer students when they're essentially kind of being told that they're your second choice. So for example, for example, if someone's applying and they're coming from TCU, which is, a more expensive school, and then another student is applying and they went to the local community college, they're both transfer students. So a college can't sit there and be like, oh, the TCU person, they get money, but not the college, the community college person. They already saved money. So we're not going to give them that. They're looked at the same. They're both transfer students. So there's just more limited numbers of scholarships available there. So choose your school right the first time for the most maximum aid. All right, now for our international students a slide. Here is what I have to say about this. And again, since those specific questions about international students and scholarships get so detailed and complicated, if you have a specific question about your situation, email it in. Don't send it into the chat because again, they get very, very complicated, based on different countries and different things like that. So please email it in, and we can definitely work with you off of the webinar. And I don't want to give you the wrong answer because I don't know, scholarship requirements in Turkey or something. I just don't want to mess up anything and give you bad advice just because I don't have time to look into it. So for international students, some of the rules are a little bit different. You can't really apply for need-based aid in most cases. We're going to cover that in the FAFSA slide too. But for students in other countries searching for ways to attend a U.S. college affordably, finding the right school is honestly the best first step. That's going to set your original price point, and it's going to help you go from there. So do your research on the college pricing up front and then go from there. Many schools offer great scholarships for international students, or they'll have overall tuition caps to give international students a break. This is called schools that have banded tuition. So banded, like adhered together tuition. And these are schools, just as an example, for if you're searching for banded tuition schools and you want to make sure you're on the right track. Two of these schools are Southwest Minnesota State and Indiana University Bloomington. Wow, Indiana University is really doing some good things. They're go and test optional for their merit scholarships, their banded tuition. Everybody go there. So departmental scholarships are also one of the best ways to obtain international scholarships, especially in the science fields. Department heads are really valuing the best and brightest talent and the applicants with the most potential for putting their research and their laboratory on the map. And they care less about what country they originate from. So for international students, I recommend searching the same scholarship engine sites that I'll talk about later in a later slide, but search instead for the keywords international scholarships. And then there'll be some on there that are specifically for international scholarships. And there's also specific websites for scholarships for international students, like internationalstudent.com/scholarships has over 1,500 scholarships with unrestricted nationality in host countries. And then even more than those 1,500. The 1,500 is just ones that are unattached to anything that anybody can apply for. And then there's even more on top of that that are specific to a major or specific to a country. So there's just tons out there. Then there's also the Fulbright Foreign Student Program that offers financial support to international students seeking an American degree for a year or more. So that wording kind of indicates a renewable award there. And then, of course, since a question was emailed about this prior to the webinar, students from India are also on the list of countries available for this program. So go ahead and check out the Fulbright and see if you qualify or what it's all about, if it works. And if you are female or you're from a developing country, there's even more specific awards out there. Honestly, just do a big Google search and you will find dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, and just take the time and apply to all of them. And if you're a first generation student, there are even more opportunities to even count for international students and domestic students. So just go after them. Honestly, international students just have to do the same searching that resident students do. They just have to use different keywords. That's honestly the only difference. But there's scholarships out there for you there's just usually less, there's just less need-based aid. So that's where that comes from. And again, choosing an unaffordable school in the beginning just helps with all your overall costs. So I recommend a Google search looking for schools with whose tuition for out-of-state students and international students are the same. I think that's Southwest Minnesota State. I think that's that one that I mentioned. And there's also lists of schools on a simple Google search. There's lists of them out there that are international friendly with their tuition. So again, I just want to reiterate, we're not going to take a bunch of questions on international student admissions or scholarships right now. That's really kind of like all of our information that we can do without getting super specific. But again, stay tuned because we're going to talk about external scholarships and how to search for all these. And again, international students are just using different keywords. So stay on, everything is good. But now we want to start questions with Melissa. So we want to ask you some questions, from your perspective as, an admissions counselor at a private liberal arts school. And also we're talking about the Fafsa. So the Fafsa opens October 1st, everyone, and we'll get to it, but you should plan to apply pretty quickly. So question number 1, Melissa. What, are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is the difference between the Fafsa and the CSS profile?
Oh, that's such a good one. And I think that people either think they have to do one or the other, and they're just confused about which one is which and what does it all mean. So we are here to clear it up. So the Fafsa awards families with federal grants, scholarships, and student loans, while the CSS profile helps schools award non-federal institutional aid. Okay, so hopefully that's crystal clear right there. Filling out the CSS profile does not take the place of the Fafsa. Rather, it's an additional application for non-federal financial aid. And schools that require the CSS typically meet about 90 to 100% of family need and package their financial aid with institutional grant money. So that's obviously to your advantage to fill out the CSS profile. And it has some significant differences from the FAFSA, and in particular, the way it calculates certain assets. So, for example, the FAFSA considers cash gifts as a part of parents' total assets. And the FAFSA also looks strictly at numbers such as income and family size. So families might discuss personal situation and hardships directly with schools. Now, the CSS counts cash gifts as parental income, which decreases the dependent student's eligibility for aid. And the CSS takes a closer look at family finances than the FAFSA does. The CSS also evaluates a family's medical bills, school costs for younger children, and among other factors to determine a family's expected contribution. So it digs a little bit further into the weeds. And then for some students, this can mean more financial aid opportunities are available through the CSS. So again, it's definitely to your advantage to fill it out.
Perfect. And someone just asked, what does CSS mean? Oh, perfect. Lindsay, you linked it. That's so great. It's college scholarship service profile. So another fun fact is that if a school that you're interested in has the CSS profile, this form has different requirements and benchmarks in the FAFSA. So families who might not qualify for aid under the FAFSA, they might actually get aid or earn aid with the CSS profile. So again, for now, both of our advice regarding need-based aid is that, for families out there who don't believe they're going to qualify for aid, so they just don't apply, they'd actually be surprised what they would qualify for, especially if they have 2 kids in college or live in a certain area. So just apply, just apply. So, okay, question number 2. What if I think our family's income is too high to qualify for aid from the FAFSA? Is there any additional benefit to submitting one?
Yeah, I got this question all the time. And I told everybody, file the FAFSA. By the way, FAFSA, just in case you're wondering, since CSS profile was asked, it stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Okay.
Free.
So, there you go. So even if you are rich or think you are, kind of in that higher income tier, you should file the FAFSA because there's more that goes into that than just parental income. So things like your family's taxed and untaxed income, assets and benefits, such as employment or even Social Security, all of those things are considered in the formula. Family size, so if you have 9 kids and the number of family members who will attend college or career school during the year are also considered. So it's not necessarily just based on that parent income. And other things like how old the parents are and whether or not you're going to retire in 2 years. That's actually, believe it or not, that's also considered as well. So please, please, please file the FAFSA. That's my biggest advice. And we really, really highly encouraged it
Mhm.
amongst all of our families that we worked with. And
And
also,
if you're really curious about like what aid you're gonna receive, just go ahead and do a quick Google search for the Fafsa Forecaster. So it's Fafsa and the number 4
mhm,
caster tool, and that helps
mhm,
you. It's a little tool that helps you estimate the aid. Again, this won't work for international students, but
mhm,
it will work for resident students, and it'll help you estimate the aid that you might receive if you fill out the FAFSA. And additionally, the FAFSA allows access to other programs too. So if
mhm,
you are wanting to do a campus job and get work study program money, then that is also a need-based program. And filling out the FAFSA allows you access to do the work study program. So work study programs in particular are one avenue that really honestly allowed me to pay for a significant portion of my tuition. You usually have a set amount that you qualify for based on your need, your family need,
mhm,
and then you work a campus job. And then every school is different, but my school allowed all of my paycheck or half of my paycheck
mhm,
to go straight towards my student account, so it
yep.
just never came to me as an option to spend it, which was
Good
good.
one.
And then once the money that I qualified for, which I can't remember, it was like, 3 or 4,000, but the school I was attending was only like $10,000 in merit in like tuition. So it was a significant chunk. As soon as that amount that I qualified for was met, I began receiving a normal paycheck, and I knew that I had like maxed out what I qualified for. Okay, question number 3, really short and
Mhm.
quick. How long does it take to fill out the FAFSA?
It takes 55 minutes, and
Perfect.
literally, that's enough time to order a pizza, eat the pizza, enough time to watch a Netflix program. It is so fast. You can do it under an hour.
So you heard it here first. Order a pizza, fill out the FAFSA, October 1st. How early should I plan to submit the FAFSA?
Fill it out as soon as possible. I mean, you don't have to necessarily be right at your computer at 8 o'clock a.m. on October 1st, but just go ahead and fill it out. And even if you don't know which school you plan to attend, nobody does it. Not necessarily. Some of you know which school you plan to attend, but a lot of students don't know, and that's okay. You can always add various schools' FAFSA codes to your FAFSA as the year progresses. So let's say you filed the FAFSA on October 1st. You're one of those early birds, 8 o'clock a.m., you're done. You just get it in. You may add 3 schools that you want the FAFSA to be sent to. And then let's say you become interested in another school in November. You can log back in and have it sent to that school as well. And it's okay to add a school to the FAFSA that you decide later on that you won't go to or won't apply for. Maybe because you've become disinterested in it or for whatever reason. You always have time throughout the year. And most schools do have FAFSA deadlines. So pay attention to when those FAFSA deadlines are. They're usually in the summer months because they'll basically give out their aid. So you want to make sure you get the FAFSA in by that deadline. And each school has a different deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna skip one because we have like it's kind of a long one. We're gonna skip it if that's okay. I'm worried about our time right now. Um, oh, where do I find assistance on filling out the FAFSA?
Sure, that's a great question. Many families are sort of intimidated by it, but there are resources everywhere. There's even resources at the state level. So, for example, in Iowa, there's a there's a program called ICANN, and there's one in Nebraska called Education Quest. And then also those relationships we talked about a little bit earlier at financial aid officers at colleges and universities, they will help you.
Mhm.
So, call up those people, talk to those people individually. And then, if all else fails, if you still can't really find anybody to work with, definitely ask your guidance counselor or your school counselor at your high school for more information. And they should be able to direct you, especially to those resources at the state level.
Yeah, and I worked for a public state university, and we had, I think it was like a team of 2 or 3 people that would just meet with
Mhm.
students and just literally fill it out with them. So, like,
Sit right next
just
to them and fill it out. Yep.
yeah, sit down and just do it, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I've been seeing this question already sent in like 2 or 3 times. Can international students apply for aid through the FAFSA?
If you're not a US citizen, but you meet federal student aid's other eligibility criteria, you'll need your alien registration number. Both parents and students need this information for the FAFSA form.
Mhm. And we have a link of what the eligibility requirements are, and so that'll be coming through in the chat as well if you wanna check out, like, who is eligible outside of the US to still apply for aid.
Yep.
If you are an international student looking to study in the US and have further questions, just reach out to us again after the webinar, and we can help your individual situation, no problem. So do I just fill out the FAFSA once before my freshman year and then I'm just done, or how does this work?
Yes. Oh no, I hate to I hate to say it, but you will have to fill it out every year. And you do still need to meet those basic eligibility requirements to be able to file the FAFSA. And you also have to make satisfactory academic progress at your school each year as well. So there's a few little things you have to kind of make sure you are doing well in school and you meet those eligibility requirements. So that will have to happen every year before the start of the next year.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. So those are kind of our main questions that we get asked all the time. The last little question that I feel like we get asked is, which taxes do I look at for if I'm applying for this upcoming, if I'm going to be an incoming freshman in fall 21, you'd be applying with the 2018 tax forms. It feels very backwards, but so just know, look at your 2018 taxes and you will be set. Okay. So we're going to move on to private scholarships. So we're going to be spending the rest of our time, which is really only like 10 minutes. So I'm going to go pretty fast. But I'll pause again for questions kind of after we talk about all these. But this is really like the big mystery that especially parents, they want to crack. Where do we find private scholarships that aren't attached to a school? So these scholarships are really the true answer to an affordable college tuition because they can be applied to any school. So you can keep applying to schools and just take the aid that you're winning from all the external scholarships along with you to any school. So where do you begin? Well, so a lot of people are going to try to sell you this amazing method on how they can help you find scholarships. Like there's a big secret. And honestly, the big secret is it just takes some work and some organization and some legwork. So that's what I'm here to help you with is like how to get organized, where to start. So it's honestly best to start small, applying for scholarships with the least amount of competition, which is local. So just remember, if they're asking you for things like an essay and things like that, that's a good thing. If you're kind of intimidated by their requirements, the fact that they might ask for a recommendation, other students are being kind of scared off too. So don't shy away from anything that has an essay because this is where the money actually is in the scholarships that every other student is too busy or too lazy to finish because they're a lot of work. So for each like requirement on the application, imagine another competitor dropping out of the race. So just apply to literally everything. Just apply. So here's where you start. So you check first with your school's counseling website, and then you follow up with your guidance counselor too to see if there's anything that he or she knows of that's not posted on the website. And again, just sometimes like scholarships are newer or there's staff changes in their office and things don't get posted. So just check in with her. And then, yeah. So then you can also ask your counselor for past graduation commencement programs to see what local scholarships have been earned in the past by graduates from your school. So the committees are already familiar with your school, and it's just an easy thing. Next, check the websites at schools all around your region. So all over, like, within an hour drive, 2-hour drive of you. Private scholarships from small businesses, they tend to only contact the high school they attended to post their scholarship because they're kind of, thinking smaller. So just check the wording on their website or the scholarship application in advance to make sure the award isn't specific to that high school. But again, most local scholarships from private companies, they really just care about their funds going to a local student, and they won't really care like what high school they go to. So just like check the wording, but apply to stuff outside of your school too. And then we're going to move away from schools, but still stay local. So we're going to research local organizations that offer scholarships. And this is where becoming an expert in your area really pays off. So again, this is a great place to find scholarships with less competition. So that's a higher chance of snagging them. These are organizations like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and Elks Club or Rotary Clubs, Toastmasters, 4-H, churches, and then especially local nonprofits are big. So like, for example, there's a great scholarship program in my area through a local independent business association, and they have like 40 scholarships they award every year. So look for those like organizations, those associations, and see if they have any scholarships. So become an expert on your area. And the last little tip, which seems weird, but do it anyway, search the word scholarships on the website of every local radio and TV station in the area to find some surprising hidden gems. I had a student like 3 years ago who said, I've been listening to like every single radio station, like trying to listen for scholarships to be mentioned. And I'm like, just search it on their website. And they were like, oh, I'm like, you don't need to spend like hundreds of hours listening to the radio, hoping to get an interview. Like, it was so cute. So next, we're going to branch out a little bit and look into local businesses that have national chapters. So the best way to describe this is like by giving you an example of how this would work. So let's say your area has a junior achievement chapter, which is a national education nonprofit. You can Google it. It's national. It's all over the place. You will notice if you Google it that their office offers local scholarships to area high schools for students who have attended like a sponsored event or had like a speaker come to their classroom. So it's really easy to like qualify. But then they also have national scholarships listed on the JAUSA website. So you could potentially win 2 different scholarships for meeting the exact same criteria, just going to an event. You can local and national. So that's a slam dunk, obviously. And then lastly, we have national scholarships. These have the most competition. But if you scour the internet, you'll probably find the most variety. Like, I think I applied to one that was like a gardening one, and like, I have a black thumb. Okay, like I cannot keep it alive. Yeah, opposite of green. And so again, like this has the highest likelihood of having scholarships for current college students too. If you have older siblings, this is websites like FastWeb and scholarships.com. They allow you to search by major, allowing you to be more specific in your searches. And then other websites are, of course, like Unigo, Scholarship Monkey, niche.com. In addition to these big websites, I just also recommend a simple, good old-fashioned Google search for like engineering scholarships and just see what comes up. So as a story, I was giving a speech at a local junior animal science group last year, and I found over 25 scholarships just for horse owners looking through like random websites in a Google search because I only found 5 on those big search engines, but I found an additional 20 just in like just a random Google search looking through websites. So that is a big one. Okay, I'm going to check out a couple couple questions, but we really want to get to essays. So I guess let's move forward on the slide and I'll answer one question. Oh, actually, yeah, someone said check your credit union. They might have an annual scholarship program. Yes, absolutely. That's great. Yep. Everything local and credit union, check out all of those. Could be about $500 to $2,500, but you must be a member of the credit union. Yeah. So there's one credit union in my area that you have to be a member for 10 years. So guess what my toddler is getting for her like third birthday? She gets an account. So here is a sample scholarships, but you can see how clearly it's organized by the columns. So there's like the deadline, there's the name, there's the amount, and then you'll see something that says which essay, and then like the essay prompt and the word count and the link. So when you're searching for these, just add them to a spreadsheet and organize it by deadline, and then put those essay topics in a column like that. And then what I've had others, like this specific student did, was in another tab of the same spreadsheet. He had his full essay typed into like a cell, and then like what the word count was, so that when he was applying, he literally had to like click the link, just copy it over from the cell. Like it was like a one-stop shop. He didn't have it saved anywhere else. It was all right there. So, and if there's a scholarship that's asking for a 300-word essay, and the one that you've written for maybe like you're reusing ones that you applied to, like applied to colleges with, like a supplemental essay, and it's only 150 or 200 words, it's okay, just submit it. Like you don't have to hit the word count. Like it's okay, just reuse them. It's kind of a quantity. It's a quantity plus quality, but it's okay if it's like a little bit off. And again, thankfully, the essay prompts for private scholarships, they rarely change. It's because they have to go through a whole rigmarole to change, a lot of their wording or their prompts. So the cool thing is you can write all of these essays like way in advance. Like I spent my sophomore and junior year looking for external scholarships to apply for my senior year. I wrote all my essays in advance. So then I sat there during my senior year just like submit. So like I didn't write anything my senior year. I just did it all in advance. So just if you can be as proactive as you want to there. Okay, so I've got some tips on the next slide for you. A couple quick tips. We want to touch on the essay. So if you're staying on right now, I appreciate you. We're going to just touch on the essay, then move on. So I'm just going to like say this really quick. Since there's some like crazy websites out there that might try to scam you or spam you, create a new email address when you're searching for scholarships. Just keep yourself safe, and just so you don't like have random stuff sent to your good email address, and just like designate it as your scholarship searching email address, and you just use that. Just do a new email address. And then also pursue scholarships with like lesser money, because most students skip over scholarships that are like $2,000 or under, and they only go for ones that are $10,000. So again, there's less competition on those $500 ones, those $1,000 scholarships. There's less competition, and again, 10 of those stacked up, and using the same essays that you've already written, so it's fine. It's a little bit of extra work to submit an application, but 10 of those is still $10,000, and no matter what, $10,000, $1,000 is worth your time. An hour of your life for $1,000, like it's the best job you're ever going to have. So just do it now. If there was like life scholarships, I'd be going for those right now. But this is the only time that's going to happen for you. Okay, let's touch on scholarships. And before we touch on scholarships, I just want to talk about the role of parents in all of this. So I highly encourage becoming involved in the scholarship search because, of course, finances should be a family conversation. Know in advance, like have conversations with your child in advance of what essays your child is planning to write for college applications. So like what topics they're going to cover in their supplemental essays or their Common App. And then you can help them search for scholarships. You can help them build that list of scholarships. You can use this as bonding time and a time of encouragement of their academic dreams. Just sit side by side, throw an episode of The Office on, and show them that you are kind of partnering with them to make college affordable. And it can be a team effort. So we're going to touch on scholarship or essays real quick. And again, this is just covering like what committees want to see out of your essay. So first off, I have my thing that I say is like cater to your audience. What I mean by this is pay attention to the company offering the scholarship. When I sat on that local independent business association board, the essays that were written about people starting their own lawn business, their own lawn mowing business, they always won out over people describing a passion for nursing and helping others because it was the audience that really mattered. So I just really recommend like trying to be as creative as possible. And right before I'll give you this example, but I always say specifically for the scholarship essay to really have the grocery store analogy going in the background. So always keep this in mind. This is a little thing that I came up with, but scholarship applications are not very extensive. They're not as extensive as a college app. So they don't have any further opportunity to get to know you outside of the essay and maybe a resume. So imagine that your scholarship essay is essentially you're walking up to someone in a grocery store, handing them your essay, and asking them if they would contribute $20 to your college fund. And then reread your essay and be like, okay, if I just handed this to a stranger, would they give me $20 or not? So that's a really good way of looking at it. And of course, I hate being vague. Every student that works with me knows I'll give you 10 examples before we even start doing anything. So let's see how the grocery store analogy is in play in this essay. So the essay prompt is a very common one for scholarships to ask, which is tell us why you chose your major. So I taught myself to knit as a way to connect with my grandmother as age kept her from attending all of my school plays. After she passed, I continued knitting for the memories it held. After knitting myself a new fall wardrobe, a little bit of humor there, I began knitting winter scarves and hats to donate during the holidays to my local homeless shelter, as well as knitting small bunnies and bears for a local foster home facility. As I look forward to my college aspirations, I'm excited to pursue a major in education. I hope continuing to find new ways to connect with others, just as the simple act of knitting brought me closer to my grandmother in her last years. So it's a sweet story, but it boils down to the fact that this essay is effective because you believe the author. You get to know her and her family in a few short words, and she honestly sounds like a good person. But this isn't an unattainable story of someone who escaped a war-torn country, right? This is just a normal girl next door who did something worthwhile with a hobby. And in short, she'd probably earn your $20. Right? She would earn mine. I would give her $20.
Definitely. We do.
So if you liked that essay approach and feel like your scholarship essays or your Common App essay might benefit from having one of us work with you, the good news is that we're here for you and we have a little special for you on the next slide. You do not need to be alone when you're writing your personal statement. We know that's very daunting to begin, and we totally get that. So we can help you brainstorm the perfect essay to say everything you want to convey. And we create a special just for webinar guests where I can help you craft the perfect personal statement to use when you're applying for colleges. This special includes an hour brainstorming session where you'll come out of it with a complete, full, extended outline. The last student that signed up for this special walked away with an outline that was over half the word count of the final essay word count. So it was really easy for him to finish. And then and then 2 editing sessions. So they're hardcore editing sessions too. So your personal statement is done when we're done. So it's all for $199. And then that means your essay is like done and has a professional look at it, and everything is included.
Mm-hmm.
So we also put together a crash course. So if you are really only needing help finding scholarships and you work best with a few action steps at a time, we create a scholarships crash course on the next slide that spans 9 days to help you find every scholarship you need to make college affordable to you. So we are sending, we'll send you a link to that in the chat as well. And then finally, we wanted to leave you with a few ways to contact our company for individualized advice and offer a few of our free resources while we start our Q&A session. So that's just on the next slide as well. And then on the screen will be our email address and also a link to our free resources page. There we go. A free resources page, which has ebooks and worksheets on almost every subject you can imagine. If you're interested in meeting one of our counselors, even me one-on-one, you can schedule a free call directly on the website to learn more. We also publish a monthly newsletter, so all of our followers have the latest college admissions news, so you're welcome to stay in the loop that way. And you can sign up on our blog page and our website. So, and I love, Melissa, do you want to talk about your free checklist? And I'll check questions.
Sure. Well, this is actually a freebie just for you guys, just for joining this. And I'm super excited about it. It's the College Money Tips Start of School Checklist, completely free. You just click on that link and sign up for it. And you'll get exactly what you need to do to start the school year off right, especially since things are changing so much with COVID. There's a checklist there that you can access and absolutely will help you through the whole process of starting school right now.
Perfect. And I did see someone, thank you so much for offering that to our students too, and our guests. That's so great. That's so wonderful for you to offer that. So I saw someone say a few times, can you please conduct a webinar on how to build extracurricular activities? So we linked there an article, it says article by Michaela there on niche.com where I think it's like over 1,000 pages on here's how to build a fantastic extracurricular activity list. And then we also have I have another in that YouTube link that's right there. There's a whole hour on here's how to build a fantastic resume with extracurricular activities. Someone said anything with a grandmother. Here's my $20. Same. Same. There's a grandma. I learned how to knit. And it says, please share again the link. I can't see it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Maybe Lindsay, if you clicked on it, maybe it would pop up and show on the screen. Maybe just an idea. So we do have some we're doing a Q&A.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry to be the voice person. I'm going to also send everyone an email with all of these links in there. So, and if you do have questions, you can go to or want to see more of our webinars. You can check out our videos here on YouTube. So you can also hit subscribe, which I saw a lot of you guys have done. But on our YouTube, we do have a webinar that goes over summer activities, extracurricular activities that you can do safely over, virtually. There's a ton of different options for you guys, but I'll send a better link if it doesn't work, and then I'll also email it to you guys as well after the webinar. But I'll let you guys take it back over.
Perfect. I have a question right there. Is there a limit to how many schools you can put on your FAFSA list, which is 10? And then also sending the FAFSA to all these schools, are they free to send? So yes, the 10 are free to send. That's the free part of that FAFSA acronym. And a small fee for over the limit. I don't actually know about. I've never had anybody have more than 10 schools to send it to. Because again, if you're looking at your college list, some of those schools don't take the FAFSA. So I've never had anybody have more than 10 schools that also ask for a FAFSA, or that would participate in the FAFSA. Usually if they have 15, 20 schools, half of them are only CSS profile or something, and only like, 10 are FAFSA. So I guess that's what I would say. FAFSA applies for high school students. Yes. So you apply during your senior year for your incoming freshman year for that coming fall. And should I file the CSS on my junior year? I'm not quite sure what that's asking, but if you're a junior year in high school, no.
No.
If you are in college, then yes. Okay. And yes, CSS profile also opens October 1st. Perfect. So FAFSA and CSS profile both open October 1st. Any other questions? They're saying great seminar. Thank you very much. Perfect. All right. I think we are pretty much set. If there is any question that you feel like I was just like super high up there, and we like put a bunch of links in there for you. So, if like things got really kind of far back there and your question wasn't answered, just please shoot us an email. We would love to connect with you. And there's always an option to, you can just ask. I'm interested in a 1-hour advice session, and we'll work out a deal with you that way. So you don't have to do just the personal statement special that we did. That's just because there's so many of those early action deadlines right now that we want to help students do their personal statement. So if you are an international student or something like that, and you just want an hour session, just email us and we'll set something up. And that way you can get everything answered and not just on an email or a question that you typed into a webinar. So perfect. And I have a good academic profile, but I lived in a rural area and studied from a small school. That's why I'm not able to build extracurricular scholarships. Should I take a drop year to build it up? So I don't recommend taking a gap year or anything like that. I highly recommend reading that article that was posted. And if you cannot find that link, just simply Google niche.com, and then Michaela Schiefer. It should be my name. It should be in the sign up information for this webinar for how to spell it. So truthfully, I have a ton of ideas on there how to do virtual, how to build up your academic resume virtually and just like not through your school or just completely on your own. So there's tons and tons of ideas. There's like over 1,000 words of just ideas. In addition to that webinar that we did, there's a ton of virtual ideas. One idea is virtually you can sign up for Beta Bowl, and they have an entrepreneurship program that's, you can only run for a couple weeks or a few months, and that's something that you can instantly virtually build up your academic profile. So there's just ways to do it creatively and virtually, and then you're set, you're ready to go. Is the FAFSA taxes 2018 for incoming freshmen 2021? Yes. Yep. Okay. I think that's about it for questions. So we're going to wrap it up. And again, any questions that you have that you think of after this, just go ahead and send them in to us over email. And if you have a question for Melissa specifically, you can find her on her website, College Money Tips, and you're welcome to reach out to her directly too. Thank you. And we're just so happy that you joined us, and hopefully you took away a few important notes.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Have a good night.